weekend out on the GP loop, and it'll be very green, the track, not a lot of rubber laid down. And throughout the weekend, the track evolves, especially out the back a lot. And in terms of the real racing, that's obviously very important. In sim racing, obviously, the track conditions will be set, so there'll be some opportunities for them to have got to grips with it in practice. But I'd say the Brits, Sarah Moore, Jess Hawkins, they have the experience around the circuit. I'd say they're ones to watch out for this week.
Yeah, talking of getting to grips with the circuit, the top three right now are separated by just over 1/10 of a second, so very close indeed. And actually, it is Moore that drops into P4 as well, so very close there. Hawkins has put herself into P5, and we've got a couple of Brits there into the top 5. It's going to be a very interesting race today. Again, it's a lot closer. It's a bit of a smaller circuit as well here, Billy, but not very many opportunities of an overtake.
Yeah, it'll be a lot trickier to overtake, especially, like I say, in this high-speed outback section at Brands Hatch. I mean, you're very committed on entry, so the braking zone's very short, which on the sim racing especially as well, where it's easier to be a bit brave and shorten those distances, them extra few meters. I think it will be very tricky to follow and to make those moves. But saying that, in these cars in single seaters, you do have the slipstream effect, which will come into play up the straight. Like, so this straight, we see Marta García coming up now before turn 1.
Yeah, you can see here that, well, no real improvement there from Marta García. Was momentarily 200ths behind Championship or W Series Esports League leader, Visser. But Visser has just improved then. The first 21 of the session there. And, well, Caitlin Wood actually just shy of a 21, improving every single lap here. So, again, Caitlin Wood has been so strong in qualifying and, unfortunately, not really hooking up in the races until race 3 last week at COTA. So I'm expecting big things then from the Australian. But as it stands, then it's 3/10 of a second separating the top 4. And, actually, Alice Powell is only 1,000th of a second off of Marta García. So we're seeing a lot closer action here today, Billy. And do you think that will transcend into the race?
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, this is a technical track, especially in the first 3 corners, Paddock Hill, Druids and Graham Hill. But after that, it's all about commitment. And these girls have had their time to practice. They've got to grips with where the level of the circuit is, especially out back. You can see there, Marta García running right up to the edge of the grass there, very committed, using all the track. And I think that translates into lap times, you see. Obviously, it is a shorter lap as well than we had in COTA, where it was over 2 minutes. It's nearly 40 seconds or 40 seconds shorter than in COTA, which is a lot of time, where the likes of Visser last week was able to extend her margins by another couple of attempts where we saw bigger gaps. But like I say, there's only 3-4 attempts between the sort of top 7, top 8 here. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah, Marta García, he's finished then. 3 laps in the books. Didn't go quicker, but oh, wow, here we go. Here's a turn up for the books. Caitlin Wood has taken pole position provisionally here. A few drivers may indeed get their times, and Agron just pops it up into P9. But Visser, the dominant driver of the series so far, well, this is the first chink in the armor we're seeing.
That's an incredible lap there from Wood. Last lap of the session for her, I think, as well. So she's really, the nerves would have been going. She knew she had 1 lap left in the bag to try and make that progress and to take pole from Visser, and she's definitely done that.
Absolutely. Kiyama finally making it for race 1. It's great to see her involved here. Currently down in P14. Abby Eaton just ahead there in P13. We've got Tasmin Pepper in 12th position, and we got Cook in 11th. But the top 10 as it stands then is Agron, Hawkins, Rdest, Marty, Moore, Sidorlova. Finally got a lap time in last week, struggled in qualifying at COTA. And the real reason was she didn't get into the session until 2 minutes from the end, and actually made a mistake on her only flying attempt. So there was no time posted. It's always good to be at the sharp end of the grid, that's for sure. But then we've got Marta García then, who is in P4, Powell in P3, Visser is in P2, and then Wood is P1. But we're on board then with Sabre Cook from the United States of America. Does she improve? Doesn't look like she has here. So 122.7 it will be. Kimilainen all the way back down in P18, and Schiff gets then P17. So 18 drivers then out of our 20 drivers have got lap times in. Looks like a few people may have indeed gone over the track limits. We've got that 1X, which indeed makes the lap invalidated, Billy.
Yeah, and there is a bit of a trick to iRacing simming around here, especially in Graham Hill Turn 3. In real life, Jonathan Palmer is not very happy with people using the grasscrete, and track limits would be present there. But in sim racing, you've got a bit more leeway there. So I think it will actually be quite difficult to get the 1Xs. So I'm wondering whether it might be a slightly different issue that some of the drivers are facing, whether it is, like you say, with Sidorlova last week, where they're struggling to get into the session on time, or stuff like that. Because my personal experience of racing on sims around Brands Hatch, it's probably one of the better tracks in terms of if you make a mistake, you're in the wall rather than getting a 1x. So it's kind of a bit different in that sense.
Absolutely, could not agree more there. But for the first time, we are going to see a new person on the front spot of the grid in P1. It is Caitlin Wood, and for race 1 of 3 here then at Brands Hatch. It is indeed round number 3 of the W Series Esports League, and it's a very good start from our pole sitter. And again, Visser has not had the best of starts, and I think already down, well, no, I say that, up into P1. So the second phase of that start was brilliant then by Biotska Visser. Didn't get off the line particularly well. You can see that Wood trying to make a potential move up the inside through turn 2. Oh dear, we got a spin of that. Looks like it was Sidorlova as well. That's the first time we've seen some misfortune for the Russian driver, and all the way down to the back of the grid. Not a good start here, but it is Visser that leads out here. Wood in second. Powell then, Billy's best mate, in P3.
Yeah, that was a great start from Visser. I mean, the initial launch, it looked like Caitlin had got the better of her, but that move we were talking about at turn 1 where a championship leader wouldn't go for it, Visser, no doubt in her mind, she went straight around the outside of Caitlin there. Caitlin obviously on pole for the first time during the course of this esports league, and I think she was a little bit cautious into turn 1 and gave the advantage to Visser there.
Yeah, but for the first time here, you know, Visser does lead the race, but she knows she's got someone capable of faster one-lap pace. You can see here, Wood has hit the grass. You do not want to be dipping the wheels in the grass. That is race pretty much over there early in this race then, and Visser would have seen that in the rearview mirror, and the smile like a Cheshire cat, surely.
Oh, that is it's hard to see. Obviously, the one thing these girls haven't experienced, which they will be right now, is following cars, with the difference in losing a bit of downforce on the front of the car. They've got to maybe adjust their line slightly. It looked like Caitlin was she was really pressuring Visser at that point as well. So she was obviously trying to get that position back. Maybe she was a bit angry of herself, just to let her concentration slip, and next thing you know, made that crucial error.
Alice Powell then is in P2 and actually closing the gap here on Visser. So stamping her ground. This is home track advantage. Wants to bring it home for the Brits, and Visser, well, Visser's just going to do what Visser does and lead out and try and lead out from the front. Marta García then is in P3. We've got Nerea Martí in P4 then, so 2 Spaniards at the front end of our race right now. Then we've got more Hawkins and Eaton, all Brits then trying to get up towards that podium spot. So it is a British invasion on British soil today. It's going to be very interesting here. And actually, as we say that, one of them, Eaton, has just made a mistake there. So Eaton is now down into P14. Not good though, but it is Visser from Powell as we stand here. And well, Visser again, just looking so cool and calm.
Yeah, that manoeuvre at turn 1 there, around the outside, a very risky manoeuvre, but she pulled it off in fashion. She never looked like she wasn't going to get the move done, to be honest. I think the confidence is brimming inside of her, and yeah, that was a great overtaking manoeuvre, a classic Brands Hatch turn 1 pass.
Yeah, for sure. Got the job done, and that's all you need to do. And, well, Visser looked like she was struggling at the start of this lap here, but already pulling now a 1 second advantage away. And, you know, esports series standings, fellow top driver Sidorlova all the way down in P17, so not going to score points as it stands, and she looked like she ploughed into a wall here. But look at this then, we are on board then with 3 drivers battling out for position. We've got Wood, Piria, and it is indeed Agron. And well, I'll tell you what, Wood's just got up the inside of both of them and said thank you very much. They were very tentative on the brakes there, and well, Caitlin Wood, no dramas whatsoever. Made a mistake earlier in this race, of course, and now coming back through the pack.
Well, what a drive she's on at the minute. I can tell from the attitude of the car as she went into turn 1 there that she is very frustrated with what happened. She knows how much effort she's put into getting up to speed, and taking that pole position was the first step in the right direction that she needed to take put a bit of pressure on Biotska. And I'm sure we'll see her climb even further up as this race goes on.
Yeah, it was a huge move, an incredible move there. We can see a little bit of damage, unfortunately, to Agron's car. You can see the front wing is bent up ever so slightly. Then we're on board with Belén García, currently in P9. So that's the next driver for Wood to indeed potentially make an overtake on. And just in front of Belén García then is the Liechtenstein driver, Wohlwned, currently in P8. Pepper then P7, Hawkins and Moore are in P6 and P5. Then we've got the two Spaniards, Martí and Marta García. Try and say that quickly 3 times. And then we've got Powell in second position. Again, 1.2 seconds off the pace. But Billy, you know, as much as Visser's leading, we see how easy it is to make a mistake. Dip one of your wheels into that grass in a braking zone and it is all over. So Visser, as much as she's 1.3 seconds in the lead, still a lot of pressure on her.
Yeah, she's fortunate in the sense of her perspective as a driver leading a race. She's not following, so it's easier to spot your apexes, your braking points. So in terms of the situation and the difference between the incident we saw with Caitlin, where she couldn't quite spot the apex and as she was probably looking for it a bit too much, not paying the attention to placing the car on entry on the right amount of road, and she used a bit of grass on the outside. But Visser, we've seen her dominate races and be very calm and controlled in the lead of the race. But saying that, this is a track that doesn't forgive people for making mistakes. So she has got to be spot on through the other 9 and a bit minutes that we've got left of this race.
Yeah, well, you know, we've got to hope really here that Belén García does well. We were on board with her momentarily. She was actually part of the Spanish commentary team for the W Series in 2019. So, you know, we wanted to do really well here so that we keep our jobs, Billy, at this point. But yeah, currently down in P9 and putting the pressure on Wohlwned. Very, very close between the two into the final sector then here at Brands Hatch. Only 9.5 minutes left of this race. Again, 15-minute race is not a lot of time at all here, especially for drivers like Wood down in P10 who genuinely have the pace to win these races.
Yeah, although saying that at Brands Hatch is obviously a 40-second odd lap is shorter per lap. So we are going to see more laps, more opportunities to overtake possibly. You can see here how close the battles are. There's 2 tenths between Wohlwned and Belén García here. So this is the situation, and the difference I think we'll see is drivers following at 2 tenths, which is obviously probably a bit closer than we saw at Kota. But whether they can get the job done and make the pass, that will be where we see the real bravery from these young drivers.
Yeah, we're on board with Kimilainen now. Kimilainen, who is a bit of a specialist of the reverse grid. So today she will start, I believe, on the 3rd row of the grid if she stays where she is. Of course, winner from both rounds of the reverse grid. And yeah, wouldn't put it past her and making it 3 out of 3. But it would be, well, Rdest, by the way, is, well, momentarily, she's down in P20. So it looks like there may have been a timing issue there. It's still Visser in the lead, though. Can't speak today, so tongue-tied. Visser still 2 seconds ahead of Powell. And Powell not really looking to go forward here, and actually maybe looking in the rearview mirrors because there is a Spanish Inquisition on their way in P3 and P4, and it's now only 9/10 of a second the difference.
Yeah, well, I think we can see Sarah Moore here as well, who's only about 4 tenths off Marty. So she's trying to separate that Spanish parade and try and get them in the mix of those two. She's got the knowledge, like I say, of the circuit, so she knows the spots to overtake. She's looking the most dangerous and the most threat at the minute in that top 5. It started to separate out a little bit from 1st to 2nd, now being a 2.3 second gap.
Yeah, we look at Abby Eaton. She was down in P16 last time we checked, but she is turning an Eaton mess of a race into potentially some decent points finish here with 12th position. Shiv and Agrin behind her are indeed battling for position as it stands, so that means she can indeed drive away. But look at this, pressure on here in behind the Italian Piria. Piria hitting a nice apex there, and actually just talking about it there, oh dear, we have got a bit of a spinner there in front, and actually that might be a back marker, so there was no change of position. And we just saw there exactly what you were talking about, Billy. In being in behind another car, you lose complete downforce of the front of the car, and you can see that Abby just made a little bit of a mistake up in towards turn number 2.
Yeah, this is going to be the most challenging part of the race for drivers like Abby, who are following very closely, because as much as they've had the practice time to get qualifying spot on and to improve their 1 lap pace, when you're following someone, you do need to adjust your lines so you can, like in the corners where you've got less downforce, make the most of it. And you can see Abby's playing around with her lines here. Some corners she's going a little bit wider, and look at the exit she got there. She really is pressuring Vicky here a lot.
Yeah, you can see Piria taking very tight lines, very defensive lines, and whereas Eaton is trying to use every single inch of the circuit to try and maximise exit speeds and doing a classic job here. Eaton in the number 44. You'd think she's a huge Lewis Hamilton fan, and I'm sure she is, but actually she uses the number 44 from her dad. Her dad was a racing driver as well, which is a really nice story to hear, because as Lee said before the broadcast started, the number 44 did exist before Lewis Hamilton was racing. But again, in P12 right now, and Piria is proving to be a very, very difficult acquisition to overtake up towards then turn 2 once again. And will she be able to hit the apex this time? Piria is actually the one that runs wide. We should be able to get the power a little bit earlier. And actually, Julie does make gain just about half a car length away there. And Eaton is taking her time with this, but not a lot of time left to go. 4 and a bit minutes to go here, Billy. And do you see Eaton getting the job done?
She really is pressuring her, and I like how she's adjusting her lines for these corners differently every lap. She's really searching for them extra few hundredths, and that's going to be enough to pull alongside and make a move stick. When we look at it back at like turn 2, as we saw there following on board, I think she had a look at the move there. A brave pass that would have been, but she's definitely got Vicky. The main thing is looking in her mirrors and pressuring her, and that's what will probably maybe lead to a mistake from Vicky. So as much as Abby needs to nail her apexes to get past, Vicky also needs to not make a mistake.
Doing a stellar job, though, as it stands. We're on board then with Belén García. She is going to try and hope to pole vault her way to P9 in behind Caitlin Wood. But it looks like Caitlin Wood has actually driven up into P9. She made an overtake here. Again, probably the quickest over 1 lap pace. I say probably. It's a fact. She got pole position. Just had that small mistake. It's such fine margins. I mean, what was it? A couple of inches, maybe less than that, onto the grass. And that's ultimately been her downfall for race 1.
Yeah, I mean, that corner is very, very particular in sort of the line you need to take. It's a blind apex, so these girls, obviously the single-seater cars in particular, are very low to the ground, so you've got to pick your turning in point in particularly very well and consistently. And it just looked like where she's so close behind Visser, she just kind of lost track of how close to the outside of the track she was. A couple of inches too wide, dropped a wheel on the grass, and it's not an uncommon thing to see in real life, so the fact we've seen it in a sim race to me, it doesn't surprise me that much.
Let's check out Sarah Moore, currently in P5, 3 tenths behind Marty as it stands. This could be a very big opportunity. She's got a lot of experience around Brands Hatch. Actually, the first ever female Ginetta Junior champion in 2009. So a lot of experience here. Billy, of course, you've been in the Ginettas as well. This circuit is synonymous with the Ginettas. Are you expecting her to lean on this experience over the last couple of laps here? Again, 3 minutes, 40 seconds to go. That's going to be enough time for 3 laps here.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely going to be presented with opportunities. Being this close for this long, it gives you a great chance to learn about the driver in front of what they're doing well, which corners you're gaining. So we can see there that Garcia and Marty, actually, who's in front of Sarah right now, she's slightly edged away through Druids, taking a slightly different line. These are all the little things that Sarah needs to pick up on and try and execute the last couple of laps, that manoeuvre.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And sometimes drivers are guilty of maybe looking beyond the overtake they've got right in front of them. They're maybe looking at what they could achieve over the long-term race and take their eye off the ball of what is at hand. And at hand right now is Sarah Moore trying to get up into P4. Needs to get that job done here. Again, you can see them able to take a lot of curb there in these cars around Brands Hatch. You have to maximise your time as well. But again, you've got to also maximise your exits. And look at that. That's a perfect example there of indeed more closing up towards the back of Marty. But it looks like the middle sector, Marty's got it nailed.
Yeah, these girls, the amount of time and effort that they put into learning the limits of the car around a 1 lap performance, I'd imagine that the high speed sector is something now that they're fairly familiar with. The more likely to see the mistakes in the bigger braking zones. So like your turn 1 at Paddock Hill, Druids, maybe see a lock up slightly running wide. We've seen that a couple of times during this race. So this is really the opportunity where if Sarah can just gain a couple more attempts, be within a tenth and a half as she gets over the start and finish line, that will be the opportunity just to pressure Marty into maybe making a slightly defensive manoeuvre into turn 1, compromising her exit. These are all sort of things. She just needs to keep herself in the mirror and not let Marty forget she's there.
Absolutely. Might be worth checking out Wood here. Wood very close to Pepper, 9th and 8th position as it stands. And well, actually, right in behind then is Belén García as well. Might be worth having a little cheeky onboard of Belén García and see what it's like from her perspective right now. And again, it's one of those situations here for Caitlin Wood. She wants to attack the driver in front, but of course you've got to defend from the driver behind. And she's going to be kicking herself really here, Billy, isn't she? Because it's one of those circuits where track position is absolutely vital. I would say it's almost like the Monaco of Britain, Brands Hatch. It's so difficult to make an overtake here. So yeah, that's, if it was at Kota last week where she made a mistake and it cost her, it's not kind of a bigger deal. But today, being on pole position, huge opportunity for a race win.
I mean, part of the reason I know a lot of drivers love circuits like Brands Hatch is for that reason, that if you make a mistake, you're punished more than at a circuit where you've got runoff. I know a lot of drivers that I've competed with, and myself, as I love this circuit for that reason of not knowing that you've got to be on the edge and a mistake will cost you. And we can see here that Caitlin Wood is doing a great job of sort of managing to get behind. Look, only about 2 tenths over the line. I think she may have a little dive bomb opportunity all around the outside here into Paddock Hill Bend. A very difficult manoeuvre to pull off. She's sticking to it on the exit, using the grass creek that you've got on the outside there, the bit of green tarmac. She now is obviously a bit compromised in Druids, but if she holds around the outside here, she will have the inside for Graham Hill, so she might be able to get this done. Wow,
yeah,
what
absolutely. Done deal. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Although maybe a little bit of a bite back there by Pepper. Unfortunately, they did get upended by a back marker there. But yeah, Wood has managed to get the job done. It's one of those circuits as well. There's not really a corner where you could get the job done in one corner. So yeah, for the majority of the time, you need to set them up for 3 or 4 corners and then potentially get the job done. But it is Visser who has got the job done here for race number 1. She comes around that final corner, and well, if there's no mistakes, no grass hit, well, it's not going to happen. Visser again showing the dominance here and takes the victory in race number 1 of round 3 of the W Series Esports League. It will be Powell then in P2, and Marta García will pick up P3. Round 2, race to the reverse grid, the race everyone waits for each week, especially myself. And well, it is Kayama who is on pole position with Sidorlova in P2. So this is going to be very, very cool indeed. And Sidorlova already making a move then for P1 down towards Paddock Hill Bend and gets the job done early here. And well, very reminiscent of what we saw in race number 1 with Visser. But it is Sidorlova, and could she potentially be our 3rd winner here in the W Series Esports League? She's got a huge opportunity, of course. Again, every cloud to mistakes in race number 1, and there's a big spin then in the background. That is not ideal at all, and that is Rdest. Gosh, Rdest then has found herself at the back of the grid, and Kimilainen's in P20. Oh, it's big carnage then out of Graham Hill Bend as well. And well, we're seeing again the reverse grid is indeed making things very difficult for these drivers. But one driver who's managed to get through is Visser from P20 up to P9 already. And again, it's very difficult to make overtakes here, Billy, but the job's been done for her.
Yeah, that was those positions have been handed to her in that sense of there was a lot of carnage there between turn 2 and 3 here at Brands Hatch, going through Graham Hill. Obviously, it's a particular corner, turn 2 here at Druids, where you can run side by side, and all that really does on the first lap, it bottles everyone up and means turn 3, a left-hander, you've got people trying to hang around the outside, and that's where it gets a bit lively.
Yes, this is going to be hoping for a lot more of that in front of her here. You can see visibly how much faster she is as she comes up towards the final corner here then on lap number 1. And well, as it stands then, it's going to be P9 for Visser, and I think it's actually officially P8. Agron has retired from the race. Big spin then, it's now going to be P8. Yes, officially P8, and maybe actually P7 as Agron indeed will drop off the timesheets here. So P20 to P7 then for the Esports League leader. Unbelievable stuff here from Visser. You can see in the foreground then you've got Eaton, Pepper and Hawkins. Hawkins going very defensive there, and actually it was Pepper trying to make the move. But it is Sidorlova that leads by 2.2 seconds, and Kayama finally getting a chance to show her skill set, currently in P2.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. Obviously, the move that Visser pulled in race 1, Sidorlova was able to replicate that very well. She actually got the move done before turn 1, really. She looked like she had a really good launch off the line. And Visser, this is a very crucial race in terms of the championship. This is the only opportunity during the weekend so far where the drivers have been able to claw back some championship points on her, because she's been so dominant in race 1 and race 3. So the fact that her championship rival, Sidorlova, is the only person really in front of her, she's overtaken Alice Powell. She's put herself in a great position here.
Yeah, Sidorlova showing that real pace that we expected. Again, very unfortunate to be on the front row of the grid. It's a double-edged sword, really, isn't it? It's like you're very unfortunate because obviously you've had a mess in race number 1, but you're fortunate because, of course, you get the best possible start with all the quicker drivers right at the back of the grid order. You know, for Visser to really take full advantage of this, she's got to get past drivers like Eaton, Pepper, Hawkins, Cook. Those drivers are incredibly talented, incredibly fast, and around a circuit like this, it's going to be increasingly difficult here. So Sidorlova and Kayama have to take full advantage of this. And I tell you what, it's just great to see Kayama, you know, not only be in the race, because that's always a great start to see her in the race, but to be performing as well as she is. Sabre Cook, though, in a podium position as well. So Kayama and Cook could get their first podiums in the season.
Yeah, and the gap behind them two in second and third, back to Jess Hawkins, is really opening up. It's about 3.2 seconds now. I know Jess is obviously under a lot of pressure. She's got the likes of Tasman Pepper and Abby Eaton right behind her, so her defensive skills have really been tested. But at the same time, this would be a great opportunity for Jess to get a podium if she can get her head down and start closing the gap to the likes of Cook and Kayama. So she needs to be very clever here in how she defends to not give up the most amount of time that she looks like she is at the minute.
Abby Eaton already dropped a position then to Visser, so Visser is indeed coming through the field here. Looks like Tomaselli might be the latest victim here in retiring from the race, unfortunately. So Eaton trying to tag here with Visser. It's a bad thing being overtaken by someone such as Visser, because of course you're losing points for the final standings, but also, you know that she is the fastest driver on the grid, so there's a potential there to follow her lines and indeed be dragged along, Billy.
Yeah, definitely round here. Overtaking is difficult, but following is fairly easy with the slipstream. So I'd like to think that Abby can try and gain any knowledge of line differences or entry speeds that Visser may have, which is obviously working well for her because her progress has been incredible this race. If she can cling on to the back of Visser, I'm sure that with only a 7/10 margin, but up to Tasman Pepper in 5th place, she can really get involved and start clawing positions back as soon as possible.
One driver we have not spoke about in race number 2. What about Visser going from P20 all the way up the field then is Wood. So Caitlin Wood then already in P8 as well, driving up the order. So it'll be interesting to see how well she does near the end of this race. And she's actually now right up in behind Eaton. But Visser is now trying to potentially make a move on Pepper. We're on board with Caitlin Wood here. And again, a little bit of a lonely race. So a chance here just to get her bearings and get a little bit faster. And actually, there's another back marker there up ahead here. That looks like it might have been Piria indeed here. So Wood wants to try and get this done as soon as possible. Piria indeed will pull over as they come up the hill here. And well, Visser now is putting pressure on Tasman Pepper. So Pepper, the South African, currently half a second behind Hawkins. So she'll want to try and go forward in this race. But now she's got another driver in that rearview mirror. And imagine being in this position right now, Billy, the championship leader right behind you is Beitske Visser, and you know that she is an absolute alien, as we call them in the sim racing world. Just superb pace. You can't really explain where the pace is coming from. You know, you are genuinely going to be 50 P5B at this point in time.
Yeah, you really are. This is such a hard position for Tasman to be in. She obviously wants to get past Jess, but at the same time, when you see the championship leader behind you, you have to pay respect to look in your mirrors, check the gaps, and do your best to defend your position, because at the end of the day, she may not be fighting for the championship at this point in time, but positions are points, so she'll be fighting all the way to the checkered flag.
Yeah, but we've seen, you know, so many incidents happen during these races, so you just never know when, you know, one of the top protagonists in this esports series may indeed have that incident and drop points each week. So you can see that them going side by side there through the right-hander has really given Visser the opportunity to close back up here. But we're starting to see it's a lot harder to get through the pack than what it was in week 1 and potentially week 2, as these drivers have definitely put a little bit more time in. But look at that. What a move that was there. Then, so Tasman Pepper makes the move on Hawkins, and Hawkins now loses out to Visser. So, again, trying to go forward for herself, and unfortunately makes one mistake and leads to 2 positions being lost.
Yeah, I've always been taught when it comes to racecraft and defending your position, the best form of defence is attack. So when you see Jess there looking in the mirrors a bit too much, maybe starting to slow down her pace too much, it just looks like there may have cost her from being overly defensive. She's allowed the pack in front of her to get away, and it's easy to just look one way, look in your mirrors, look behind you, and normally when you start doing that, that's the way you go.
Yeah, for sure. Could not agree with you more. You just got your point proven there as well, as we saw. But as it stands, then, it is still Sidorlova in the lead. 7.7 seconds. We saw this from Kimilainen last week at Kota in the reverse race. She managed to get up to around about a 10-second lead. And actually, Cook up to P2 then. So Sabre Cook, the American, is in P2. And then we've got Kiyama in P3. Could Kiyama still get the podium? Well, next up then, we saw Pepper, of course, the opportunist on the previous lap, is now chasing her down. So it's going to be between, I think, near the end of this race, only 1.5 seconds, but Visser as well. Imagine Visser goes from 20th up to P3 around probably the toughest circuit in our calendar.
It would be an incredible drive. I mean, this is the drives we're seeing from Visser right here in terms of winning race 1 and putting in performances like this in the reverse grid race where she's got a championship rival Sidorlova in the lead. I mean, if that's not enough motivation for you, I don't know what is. She knows that she's actually going to be losing points in terms of the championship here, but this sort of performance to get near a podium around Brands Hatch from right at the back, yeah, I wouldn't have been expecting it myself, but she's obviously a very determined driver, and we're seeing that right now.
It did help with the absolute cluster at the start of this race, though. That was interesting, to say the very least. But you say she's losing points this race, but over the course of 2 races, Sidorlova didn't score in the first race. So right now, you know, over a net 2 races, she's gained. She's going to extend the championship lead. And there's a mistake from Pepper. Just a little bit too much on the AstroTurf on the exit there of Graham Hill bending. Well, it's opened the door for Visser. And Visser as well. She doesn't need 2 invitations. But I tell you what, Pepper is trying to bite back here. I don't think it's quite going to work out. But they're side by side, so she can't even get any slipstreams. She's going to have the outside line then as we come up the hill here around what you would say, Billy, is the greenest part of the circuit from earlier on. Again, it's the least used part of the circuit. And, well, it is job done then for Visser. Next up then is Kiyama. And Kiyama, of course, again, great to see her in the races finally. She's had a few tech issues, unfortunately, and also the time difference. Like, it's 4 a.m. For her right now. So, like, crazy commitment there from Kiyama, and it would be great to see her get that podium. But, unfortunately, we have got who is the most ruthless driver on this grid right now, and that is Beitske Visser breathing down her neck.
Yeah, Kiyama will definitely not be encouraged by the fact that she's got Visser behind her. The fact that she's gone from 20th to 4th, 1 more position doesn't seem too out of prospect, and she's only 8 tenths behind Kiyama here. Still with it's only 5 minutes on the clock, so maybe 4 or 5 laps, but she seems to get she's getting her move done very quickly at the minute, so I wouldn't put it past us to see Visser on the podium here in race 2.
Yeah, she's not hanging around whatsoever, is Beitske Visser. Again, another dominant display here. We're on board with Kimilainen then, who was actually P20 at the, through the mid part of lap number 1. So we're seeing her pace here, that's for sure. Kimilainen then trying to make a move here, potentially on Rdest. Gosh, Rdest then indeed gets displaced here by Kimilainen. And next up then is Powell for a top 10. So can she get the job done on Powell? I know this is not going to be great for you, of course, you know, being your friend in front here, Billy. But, you know, can we see Kimilainen potentially get this job done?
Yeah, to me looks like Alice may have some front wing damage or something like that from lap 1. I mean, the amount of carnage that happened and the crashes and incidents that we saw people involved in, considering Alice was in front of Visser, who's actually now in P3, according to our time sheet.
Oh, yeah, I think Kiyama's made a mistake here. Already dropped 2 positions.
We may have seen a mistake from her here. So Visser was behind Alice after lap 1, or right with her, so I think Alice may have some slight bit of damage. So Kimilainen getting past, she's the reverse grid queen, I guess you could say. I wouldn't put it past her at all.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more there. Again, I've agreed with you quite a lot of times here, Billy, because you just talk sense when the camera's on. Crazy. But Visser now in P3. I'm not going to put it past her for P2 here, Billy. It's, 1.9 seconds, already gained 3 tenths through the first sector here on this lap, and she is absolutely flying.
Points make prizes, though, with their clock running down, 3 minutes on the clock. And Cook, I suppose in this situation, Cook just wants a podium, probably. That would be a great achievement for her to get her first podium of the season, but she's as a young driver, she wants to do the best that she possibly can. And I'm sure we'll see a battle at least for position, but yeah, you just see the pace difference that Visser has between compared to these front runners is just quite incredible, really. I mean, she's taken 8 tenths in that middle sector alone out of Sabre Cook, and I'm not too sure if she'll be able to cope with that pressure.
Yeah, it's really good to see Sabre Cook finally find the recipe to get herself up into the top of the old timesheets here in P2 as it stands. But you would expect that. She's a cook. So, these things happen naturally. And I believe that is the 3rd dad joke of the day. Sorry, I will stop from now on. Tasman Pepperhead still in P4. Hawkins in P5. Abby Eaton just made a move on Kiyama. So Kiyama was looking at a very, very solid P2, and unfortunately now dropping down the order here. But look at this then. We've got Eaton, Kiyama, Wood battling all for position very, very closely indeed. And actually, they've got a back marker here involved as well. So, yeah, not as easy as you might think there. So not all 4 of these drivers battling for position. But as it stands, I think Eaton leads the way with Kiyama in the middle of her and Caitlin Wood. Caitlin Wood's going to go up the inside, then through up towards corner number 2 here. Sabre Cook's lost P2. Visser is up into P2. So the job is done. Yeah, there it is. It's done as we come along the back straight here up towards that long sweeping right-hander. And I tell you what, Sabre Cook, you know, again, like you were saying, you said a P3 would be good enough. Is she going to still try and battle with Visser? I think every racing driver is always striving to get more points, right?
Yeah, definitely. She knows that Visser started at the back and winning race 1, obviously. I don't think it looked like there was too much of a fight put up there. I think she knew at the pace difference, eventually Visser was going to find a way past. And with only a minute on the clock, she wants to secure her podium position, I guess. So with a 2.5 second gap behind her, she didn't want to probably cost too much time and lose time from battling. You've got to know when to give up your position and not learn how to just bring it home. And I think that's what we're going to see from her right now.
Well, talking about bringing it home, it is all about Sidorlova. Finally, she's hooked it up here and actually looks like the fastest, apart from maybe Visser, in the race. And dropping a little bit of time here, but she is on the final lap of the race. Again, starting on the front row of the grid, got the job done on Koyama through Paddock Hill Bend on lap number 1, turn number 1, and not looked back since. A couple of back markers to contend with. It's been an absolute breeze here. And finally, the young Russian, who I feel like is the real challenger for this esports crown to Visser, is going to get the job done.
Yeah, it's been quite honestly a great performance from Sidorlova. All the praise we gave Visser in the first race of getting the move done at turn 1, Paddock Hill, and then going and extending that lead and bringing it home. Sidorlova's done that, and she's got a 10.5 second lead. I mean, that is some real dominance right there. She's although Visser's had a great race in herself, 20th to 2nd, ran Brands Hatch, which is probably unheard of, really. The fact that she can claim such a substantial margin of victory at least gives her some sort of confidence going into race number 3.
Absolutely, and she has indeed crossed the line here, ladies and gentlemen. And Ira Sidorlova, again, looking very, very quick here today, slowing the car down. But it's been a long journey for Ira, a very young driver, and actually takes inspiration from Lightning McQueen from Cars. But today, one of her biggest achievements, I would say, in her very young career, will be a race victory here. So race number 2, round number 2 of Brands Hatch, the reverse grid race, will go to Sidorlova. In second position, it will indeed be Beitska Visser. And in third spot, then, we are looking at Sabre Cook. What a race that was there, Billy. Of course, the reverse grid always churns up some carnage, but it always churns up some action.
Sabre, great to see you. That was a really strong race and your first podium in the W Series Esports League.
Yeah, I was pretty excited to be able to finally get a solid finish. I've been trying to put in a lot of work to get caught up with all the other girls for all the sim racing, so I'm happy that I've had at least one good race so far.
And it's tricky, isn't it? Because everybody's at such different levels when it comes to sim racing. In terms of your performance so far tonight, you've already managed to more than double your points, and you've still got another race to come. But Brands Hatch is such a tricky track, isn't it?
It is tricky, but I actually, it's one of my favorites because it's like a roller coaster, and it's almost like you have to really think about how to back up the corners sometimes, and you can't just overcharge everything. So it's a really enjoyable track, and it's definitely challenging mentally.
Best of luck for race 3. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
2, 3, 4.
Sidorlova, it's been all about her today. Oh, it's a beautiful move.
I'm Irina Sidorlova, I'm 16 years old and I'm from Russia. When I was 6 years old, I did a ballroom dancing, if you know, and once I and my family went to a cinema to watch a cartoon Cars. After that, I said to my dad that I want to racing. We got to the kartodrome, I raced the kart, and the trainer said to me that I need to practice and do the motorsport career, so... Formula 1 is my dream. Of course, I watched the first season of W Series and I set to a Formula car in this year. So the W Series was my dream, was my mission, and now I can say that the mission is completed.
Wow, 16 years old is showing head on her shoulders well beyond her years.
I was taking part in the Formula 4 Spain last season, so of course Formula 3 car was a new for me, and I like it. So it is really fast, and I can feel the wings, so it was nice.
Sidorlova has done a great job navigating through that traffic.
I have got a lot of feelings. Of course, it's amazing. I'm happy. It was my dream, and now I'm here with you, so it makes me smile.
Well, Ira, we've just seen a lovely film about your story and how you got into motorsport. And we've also just seen you win your first W Series Esports League race. Congratulations. Really well done.
Thank you very much. Yes, the second race was really good, and I'm really happy about my first W Series Esport Week win. But it was really fine, so nothing hard. I had to just start good and win this race. So that's it.
And Brands Hatch is not an easy racetrack, but qualifying well makes a big difference. But it's not an easy one to get your rhythm in so much.
Yes, the Brands Hatch is hard track and you need to qualify good, but you know, the second race is the reverse grid race, and I will start second because I was not good in the first race.
You're certainly getting better race by race. Good luck for race 3.
Thank you.
As excited as you are, I think, mate, this is going to be hopefully an action-packed thriller. And hopefully we can see these drivers that you've been talking about deliver in qualifying when it matters.
Absolutely. Well, there we go. Visser has indeed put her first time in. It's a 21.7 then, which is actually a tenth of a second slower than what Caitlin Wood did earlier on for her pole position. Caitlin Wood has gone into P2 then with a 21.9. Also with a, 22.0 then is Marty. Sidorlova does a 22.3. So we've got 3 of them in the top 4. And Marty here looking to maybe spoil the party.
Yeah, and Marty was strong in qualifying in the race 1 as well. She's had some good performances. And I think she's a driver that is at the minute just on the cusp of being in the sort of title contention and sort of fighting for race victory. So she needs a strong qualifying to bridge the gap to these guys and all these girls. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's a genuine group of sort of 10 drivers that are just not quite there, maybe not quite ready to get race victories. But again, all it takes is getting across that line for the first time, and it opens up so many doors of opportunities. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they progress here. Again, this is the 3rd race, and notoriously we do indeed see them go a lot faster in the race, and they're also a lot closer in terms of racing here. We're on board then with race 2 from today. The reverse grid winner wasn't Kimilainen for the first time. It was Ira Sidorlova around the final corner then for the Russian. And wow, she looks like she's rushing to the finish line as it stands. This is going to be any faster though. Again, in P4 as it stands, no one's able to take her off the second row of the grid. Across the line she goes. Visser still with a 21.7. Wood's done a 21.9, but there it is. Sidorlova onto the front row of the grid here. Still 1 lap remaining. And well, the big 3 that I think are the top pace drivers in this championship are P1, P2 and P3. Billy, we might have our little classic on our hands.
It looks like it. I mean, the times are so close as well. There's a 21.7 for Visser, 21.8 for Sidorlova, and Wood a 21.9. We're talking tenths of seconds here, which is, you see that at the highest categories in racing. Formula 1, you'll see tenths between teammates, and this is what these young drivers are proving right now, how talented and skilled they are to be fighting within tenths of each other.
Yeah, Cook yet to get a lap time in here. Showed some serious pace, though, over the course of today's racing at Brands Hatch. And, well, has she managed to get herself a time in as of yet? Doesn't look like she has, unfortunately. Only 17 drivers have managed to get a time posted here. But it goes even further here, Billy. The top 5 separated by around about 4/10 of a second, just under 4/10 of a second. And well, as I said, the Spanish Inquisition, they are here again. P4 and P5 for Marty and Marta García, but they're in the opposite way round this time. So Marta García is going to try and get one over on Marty once again today.
Yeah, they've been doing a stellar job. Marta García, I know her from karting. She obviously had a lot of strong performances in W Series last year. And Marty, a newcomer, and I think we've just seen a change of position here.
Have we? No, Sidorlova there is up there twice. But no, it's not Marta Garcia. So Marta Garcia then is up into P2. And wow, there was such a small gap there to get herself involved. Only a tenth of a second. And wow, she has done it. So Marta Garcia has not only got one up over Marty, but is on the front row of the grid here. Sidorlova and Wood then down in P3 and P4. And I'll tell you what, it's getting closer and closer and closer here, Billy. I'm looking forward to this. I cannot wait.
Yeah, there's the top 5 in particular are so close. There's less than 0.3 of a second between the top 5, which is just... This is just giving us all the ingredients for some great racing. But beyond that, in sort of P6 and down, there's about 0.6 back to Tasman Pepper in P6. So, yeah, it seems like those girls, the top 5, they are really in a league of their own.
Yeah, but we've seen with race pace, obviously, is completely different to qualifying. As you said, Billy, points mean prizes and all that good stuff. And the race pace has been a little bit different. So to have Tasman Pepper there in P6, we've seen Agron lead 2 races this season so far. We've got more then down in P8. Wohlwned then is in P9. And then we've got Belén García in P10. Schiff got a fastest lap last week. So we're seeing improvement from her. Of course, it was only her first week last week. And then we've got W Rdest, who's had a very unfortunate day here today, but actually doesn't really, by the looks of things, possess the pace around Brands Hatcher, albeit only 1.2 seconds off the pace. But again, that's enough for her to be 12 positions off pole position. But again, I think this is what we're starting to see is they're all progressing. They're all starting to get faster, which means for us watching at home, this championship is going to get closer and closer and closer, which, yeah, I definitely welcome.
Yeah, I think we all do. Visser is in pole position though. She has been dominant, first in race 1, second in race 2. She's opening up a gap in the terms of the championship points, but with Marta Garcia only being half a tenth slower over the course of the lap, that just, to me, means that we've seen the person on the front row in P2 take the lead into turn 1 of both the first 2 races. Will we see that again from Marta Garcia?
You absolutely stole my next line. Love it. On the same page. Great stuff. We've had some bad news. Unfortunately, Kiyama then is not going to be able to take part in this race. Again, hardware issues. So we hope that that gets sorted for the rest of this championship. Again, 7 rounds still to come. So plenty of time for her to showcase her skills. Again, very close at the front today. Could have been a podium if she was a bit more lucky. But again, luck's not been on the side again with those hardware issues. So hopefully it gets sorted and we'll see her next week. But it is, as it stands then, at the end of qualifying, Visser on pole position. Marta Garcia then is in P2, which is the biggest surprise, although we have seen a lot of pace from the young Spaniard. And then in P3 it is Sidorlova and Wood is in P4. So it is race number 3 then of round number 3 of the W Series Esports League. And I tell you what, Visser has not got off the line well here again. And Marta Garcia then is taking full advantage of that situation. Visser now down to P2 and Sidorlova is in P3. Wood then in P4. Marty then in P5. Potentially having a snifter there, not quite close enough to take full advantage. Actually side by side with Caitlin Wood as it stands. But Marta Garcia then, again, spoiling the party as you like to see. Has fought pretty damn well over this esports series so far, but leads the race, Billy.
Yeah, it seems like at Brands Hatch here today, we're not looking for pole sitters, we're looking for people that are on the front row in P2, because they've been in the lead after turn 1 in all 3 of these races. So Marta Garcia might have just found a little hole in a chink in Visser's armour there and qualifying in P2, maybe getting a better start and taking the lead.
All good though, getting the lead of this race is about maintaining that lead. So this is going to be a tough job for Marta Garcia with Visser in behind. Sidorlova just trying to keep pace here again. Maybe not seeing the craziest race pace from Sidorlova over the last couple of races, although she had it pretty damn easy in race number 2. But Visser indeed did get that fastest lap. But it's all about just sticking behind these two here. You can't overtake both of them. They're far too close to each other. And just hope that there's a little mistake as they maybe go side by side here at Brands Hatch. But at the end of lap number 1 then, it is Marta Garcia who's taken full advantage then of the poor start from Visser. Visser maybe trying to go around the outside here, and already this is going to hemorrhage time for the leaders here if they do indeed start battling. Sidorlova positioning herself to potentially take advantage. But Billy, what a start.
This is exactly what we wanted to see. The top contenders fighting side by side. You saw Marta Garcia there had to go defensive into Paddock Hill Bend there from Visser, but Visser's got to be careful because we know what Sidorlova is capable of. She won race 2. She is in the prime seat to spectate this battle, as you can see them going down the back straight. And yeah, she's really got to just pay attention to any mistakes and try and capitalise it if she can.
Absolutely spot on there, but we've got Wood then in P4 as well. And well, the biggest mover in the championship today is indeed Pepper, who is in P5 as well. So we've really got, and to be fair, Marty, I was just about to speak about Marty. I probably shouldn't have done that because now she's dropping down the order. So it looks like there may have been an incident there. And I was about to say the top 6 quickest drivers are the top 6, but Marty's just dropped down. There is, again, that's just my opinion. It's not actually the championship standings, but that is my opinion of who I think is the quickest drivers. But the front 3 could be separated by, well, they could be separated by absolutely nothing right now. It's so close as it stands. And actually, Marty is out of the race then, unfortunately, but her fellow Spaniard is in P1 then. It is Marta Garcia, Visser in second, Sidorlova in third, and you can see in fourth position, Wood on lap 1 was involved in a lot of side-by-side action, which has cost her a little bit of time here, Billy, but she is hoping that these 3 here can cost each other time and try and get involved. She's not being dropped. She's been around about 1.6 seconds over the last 2 laps, so she's got the same pace as the leaders, and potentially we could see a 4-way for the race victory.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Wood, and we've seen Caitlin, her pace in qualifying on pole for race 1. She's got strong 1-lap pace, and now she's got an opportunity to make the most of it and start closing the gap up. But at the same time, I can see from the attitude of Marta's car and how she's defending, she's being very aggressive with her lap times. I don't think she's driving in her mirrors that often. It's great to see that sort of defending where she's confident in her braking points and their abilities, and she's just managing the gap well at the minute. But Visser is close, and you can kind of tell that Visser, when it comes to race spec, she looks like she's got the advantage.
Yeah, well, it looks like you may have been giving her a bit of coaching then with the best form of defence is to attack, and she's doing that very well right now. But talking about coaches, your coach has had a very good start to the race here. Started right down the back of the order, up to P11. Alice Powell then. Not only is she, of course, your coach, but one of your good friends as well. We love to bring up the old Billy and Alice friendship, but doing very well indeed here.
Yeah, she's made good progress there, up nearly into the top 10, behind Jess Hawkins. So the battle of the Brits will unfold there. Only 6 tenths in it, so we'll see some action from them too during this race, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, that must mean there's been some sort of carnage as well here, because it's difficult to make 9 overtakes here in a couple of laps, and actually looks like there's a bent front wing there for Powell as well. So again, this circuit is very much downforce dependent as well. It's a tough old circuit to get around without any damage, let alone with some damage. Visser though all over the rear then of Marta Garcia, 0.2 of a second, and actually Sidokova's just dropped off the pace here, Billy, ever so slightly. Again, you know, it's not necessarily such a bad thing. You know, being 0.2 of a second behind this battle here, if anything does indeed happen, not much time to react. But being around about a second, 0.8 of a second, you still got that toe, so you can keep involved with the drivers at the front. But you also got a little bit more warning time if something does indeed go down.
Yeah, I mean, in the situation of this circuit and how one mistake can be costly, I mean, being only 8 tenths behind isn't the end of the world, but in the same situation, she kind of, I think Sidorlova, with Visser being a championship leader and one of her main competitors, she'll want to put some pressure on her to make her look in the mirrors and maybe make a mistake, because at the minute she's all about looking at the rear end of Marta Garcia and how to get past her, and she's making the diving move to the outside here at Paddock Hill. But Marta Garcia's defence so far has really impressed me. She looks so composed with only a 0.2 gap throughout this entire first few laps.
I think that's the first mistake we saw there. She ran a little bit wide there on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. And again, you do not want to be running any wider than that. That gravel track will grab you with both arms. Not a problem at all. But Marta Garcia has actually warded off the pressure there of Visser quite well. But that was a pretty scary moment there. So it's the first time we've seen a little chink, but still holds the lead, which is all good. But this has given the opportunity then for Sidorlova to indeed close that gap. Caitlin Wood then 2.6 seconds behind, so just dropping off the pace ever so slightly. But for the first time here, we're seeing a genuine battle for the league, and it's almost going to be like a game of chess here. Like you said earlier on, Billy, Visser's just sitting behind Marta, trying to pick out where she's strong, where she's weak, so she can take full advantage later in this race. And of course, time is not of the essence as much as it was in race 1 and race 2. It's 20 minutes in race number 3, so there's plenty more time to get the job done.
There really is, and when we were watching on board with Visser, you could see that there are minute differences in their lines and how they're approaching this back section. And only, look, 2 and a bit temps. She's all over the back of her. This is going to compromise Marta's exit up the paddock hill straight. And she's got to go really defensive here. She can't open that inside gap up at all.
Oh, it's real close here again. The door was shut there by Marta García. Visser was trying to make a move here. Look at Sidorlova. Sidorlova then is trying to take full advantage here up the inside then of our Esports League leader. And Sidorlova is going to take P2. Inside line up towards turn number 2. Marta García then with that very, very well executed defensive move has hung on. But look at this, Visser then trying to keep her nose in down towards Graham Hill Bend through the left-hander. Sidorlova leaves the room and bites Visser. Well, has she got the job done? No, she has not. So it is now Sidorlova for what, corner 4 in a row. They've gone through side by side and Sidorlova just runs ever so slightly wide. Bites Visser leaves the room here again, and it's still side by side. The respect levels here are unreal, Billy.
That is some of the best racing I've seen in a long time. Side by side through the first 4 corners of the lap here. And you can see Sidorlova has now finally got that move done. That's what Brands Hatch racing is all about. A move is never completed really unless you're up the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. And we saw Sidorlova, she had that opportunity, but Visser really fighting hard for positions here. And dangerous stuff because side by side action around Brands Hatch where there's no room for any error anyways. That's just incredible stuff to see, and we can see that's gifted a 1.3 second gap to Marta García. So yeah, that's really helped her out.
Yeah, but it's the ruthless nature of both these drivers here. Visser has got a very good run here out of the final corner. Sidorlova making it very obvious she's taken a defensive line as early as possible, and then across the line they go up towards Paddock Hill Bend once again, nearing the halfway point of this race. And Visser, the respect levels between these two drivers is great, but then you've gone for the over and under here up towards then turn number 2, and Sidorlova then on the brakes a little bit earlier. I think she was looking for a potential move up the inside of Visser. Well, she's retaken P2. This is playing into the hands though of Marta García absolutely wonderfully. I'll tell you what, the great philosopher Jimmy Broadbent once said, the racing cars might not be real, but the racing certainly is, and that is proven right there. This is cracking stuff.
This is exactly what sim racing is all about. The level of respect there was the main thing, because running side by side, it'd be so easy for one of them to just squeeze the other, open up the wheel, and this back marker here, Tomaselli I think that is, causing a bit of a difference in pace and difference in line needed, and you can see that's just gifted Visser about 3.5 tenth gap. Enough. Now she needs to start getting her head down, because Marta García 1.8 seconds, and being only half a tenth in it, I think it was, between the front 2 in qualifying, that's going to be a hard gap to kind of narrow down.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, especially when you've got someone such as Sidorlova in behind you. Of course, we've talked about the ruthless nature of these two drivers, but they have just gone toe to toe there. We've been wanting to see it, and it's taken till round 3 for it to happen here. So Visser still in P2. It is Marta García that leads out this race then. We've got Caitlin Wood in P4. Tasmin Pepper is in P5. So Wood's actually close up to the back of these two. Of course, around a circuit such as Brands Hatch, if you don't take the optimum line, if you are side by side with people, you can lose 2, maybe 3 seconds a lap in these cars, Billy. And well, you can see that Marta García is only 1.4 seconds in the lead. So I don't think she's taken full advantage of this situation.
Yeah, I just think Visser's race pace just looks quite... We saw it when she was right behind Marta García. It was only 2 tenths. And to stay that close for that long, she was there for probably 3 or 4 laps, pressuring her side by side with her in certain corners, just couldn't quite get the job done. So in my opinion, from looking from the outside, it looks like Visser is the fastest driver. She had the fastest lap in the first and second race here at Brands Hatch. So in terms of race pace, she seems to have it nailed.
Absolutely. Jessica Hawkins we're on board with here in that top 10 as it stands then, with Wohlwned in P9, and then we've got Schiff in P8. Great to see Schiff here again as well. Again, with that fastest lap last week, there's some serious potential then in that car with Schiff at the wheel. It's going to be good to see how these drivers indeed do progress. And this is probably going to be, again, the toughest challenge on the calendar. I would say Brands Hatch, again, as much as it's well known and it's in every single sim racing game, so you would have had laps here, I still feel it's the toughest challenge, especially going side by side here. As we talk about side by side, Jessica Hawkins with a great run then up towards the final corner here. And you can see Wohlwned then just about leaving enough room on the exit. And look at this then, we've got another over and under. Jessica Hawkins then up the inside as they come out across the long straight here. I say long straight, it's very bumpy hilly little bit of road there. It's not straight at all. Down towards turn number 1. And again, just squeezing. Well, actually, it wasn't on the outside of Jessica Hawkins there at all. So Wohlwned got dumped there, really, as they went up to turn number 1. But it is Jessica Hawkins then up into P9, and now she's chasing down Schiff. Visser, though, closing up. It's now 0.6 of a second. And, well, are we going to see the same again here, Billy, where these two fight and Sidorlova comes back into our little bit of a three-way battle for the race victory?
This is a very tricky one for Marta Garcia here, because before she was being pressured the whole time. Visser didn't know how much quicker she was. Now Visser's had a bit of a time to regroup. She's clawed that gap down by 1.4 seconds, I think it is, within the space of a lap and a half. So now, in the back of Marta's head, she must be thinking about the pace difference and how much quicker Visser is. She's just got to keep focused and keep composed. And really execute the defensive manoeuvres that it looks like she's definitely going to need to bring into the play here.
That's a really good point there, because Marta would have probably saw Visser behind her earlier in this race thinking, oh, she gets ahead of me, I can still hang with her, I can maybe make an overtake. But now she kind of knows that if she loses this position, it's kind of race over. Visser is just a different beast right now. Again, just being so strong here. This would be the 3rd time in a row that she would get herself 2 race victories within a race event with our 3-race program every single week. And Marta Garcia is the one then that can try and stop that from happening. Marta Garcia, again, flying that flag for Spain. Can she get the job done? Still 7 minutes to go here, of course. If this was a 15-minute race, we'd be on the second to last lap, and job is a good one. But with the longer format here in our feature race, there's an opportunity then for Visser to retake her crown of winning 2 every week. We're on board then with Jessica Hawkins as they come through the left-hander. And Agron then is going to be hung out to dry here, surely. And, wow, there's enough room left on the outside here. And Agron is still there. Hangs the car there. And actually, here we go as we come up towards, down the hill. Here. There's 4 drivers here battling for position. We've got Agron in the lead of this. We've then got Hawkins, Schiff, and we've got Wohlwned here as well. Side by side through that right-hander. That's almost impossible to do. They've kept it on the circuit here. It's beautiful stuff then as they come around the second right-hander at the top of the hill here at the Brands Hatch GP circuit. And they're jostling for position here. Oh, there's the contact, but they still survived here. Then up the hill. And I'll tell you what, there is the big mistake. And oh, there's the contact. It was inevitably going to happen. And it's so unfortunate then as it's happened, but it was so clean for so long, Billy.
Yeah, it was, and I think we've got a position change as well, because Sidorlova's got past Visser back into P2, and if we know anything about Sidorlova, we know that she is ruthless as well, and she does not give up, and we're seeing action all over the grid here in race 3. Everyone's got to grips with the circuit now, and they are just throwing it into these overtakes, and we love to see it.
Yeah, we do love to see it. And I think they've got their grips with sim racing. It's taken 3 weeks, but we're really starting to see them perform at the top level. This is awesome stuff here. But Visser, then, not like her to make a mistake, but she's obviously made a mistake somewhere. Sidorlova has taken full advantage, and obviously these two are quicker than our race leader. We know that they've indeed closed the gap twice in this race thus far, and now Sidorlova, we know if she gets an opportunity, she is going to take full advantage. I love this camera here with Visser. You can see how minimal the inputs are, how precise the inputs are, even with the jet wash from the car in front, and that is a real reason why she is right at the top of the timesheets week in, week out. She's able to replicate those inputs just from muscle memory at this point, because they're so minimal and they're just so precise and exact every single time. But the precise and exact thing for her right now will be to make a move here potentially for P1. She will not be happy with P3, but look at Sidorlova then. She's all over the back of Marta Garcia like a rash, maybe making a late move up the inside through Paddock Hill Bend, and she's got the job done. Marta Garcia, though, I think is going to get double overtaken here up towards turn number 2. Side-by-side action then between the Dutch and the Spanish drivers, and it is a young Russian once again who leads the way, and Marta Garcia, who's led from the green flag, unfortunately down into P3, and now she needs to show how much pace she really has.
Yeah, we've not seen any overtakes from Marta Garcia. She made the move stick at lap 1, turn 1, and since then it was all about her defensive abilities and keeping them behind. But now both of them have got past in one clean sweep manoeuvre up at Paddock Hill. Obviously, Sidorlova, a brave move up the inside into turn 1. I said that's probably the only opportunity around the circuit you get up the inside into Paddock Hill where you won't have to continue to fight for position. It's kind of done, dusted there, and that's what we saw. But now Sidorlova, she can attack, can she defend?
It's a huge opportunity here, Billy. Like, you know, she got the race victory in race number 2 with the reverse grid, but she didn't technically beat Visser. Like, it's the whole adage when in the golf, when Tiger Woods was out for about 5 years, when people won a major, it's like, well, Tiger wasn't playing. Visser has been battling with Sidorkova here. She's had to overtake Visser, so if she goes out and wins this race, like, that's huge. The confidence she will get from that moving forward in this esports series is going to be massive. But I tell you what, it is not done yet. We have got ourselves, I think, 3 more laps here. And wow, Visser gets a great run there out of Paddock Hill Bend up towards turn number 2. And Sidorkova with a very late defensive move. And I tell you what, it was a very, very good defensive move. But all of a sudden now, Marta Garcia has got a ticket to the raffle, and she's hoping it's going to get drawn because these 3 are battling for the race victory.
Yeah, we're just seeing a couple of little mistakes creep into Sidorkova's driving there. She ran a little bit wide at Paddock Hill, got a compromised exit, and that's where that opportunity for Visser to nearly make the move stick was presented to her. And Visser has already overtaken Sidorkova during this race. So in some ways, in the mental game of driving behind your competitor, she knows that she's had the ability to get past her once during this race. So if she can do it again, then obviously she's into the lead, and I wouldn't put it past her to hold, but only 2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, Visser's got 9 years on Sidorkova. So you're talking about the mental side of whether it be sim racing or racing. This is huge for the development here. So, oh, this is gone! Championship leader's gone! Spun into the wall, front wing gone! Oh, wow, huge error here. And we were talking about potentially Sidorkova making a mistake, but it is the esports series leader that has binned into a wall.
And she just lost the rear out of this the high-speed corners around the back. It's a tricky left-hander. All the corners out back are all right-handers. You kind of get into a rhythm, right-hander, 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 and then they throw this quick left, which is cambered as well. It's caught her out, and at an opportunity for her to get another race victory again, she's made a crucial error.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if this is going to be race ending here. It'd be really good to get on board to see whether indeed Visser came into the pits there. I don't think she did. She's actually in P4 still here. That car, she's not really got too many behind, so it makes sense for her to stay out. I think she's definitely going to lose out to Pepper here. And well, whether Moore can indeed get the job done as well. I don't think Wohlwned is quite close enough to take advantage here. But for Visser, she got the hard work done early in this race. So again, it's a huge, huge error here, Billy, but it's damage limitation. It's only, I think P6 is going to be the worst possible result here from this point, unless she indeed bins it again with 1 more lap to go. So she got the work done. She got that pace. Of course, she'll want to be battling at the front, but it's not the end. Of course, she still will be leading this esports series. But tell you what a feather in the cap for Sidorkova and indeed Marta Garcia. 1 and 2 then for both drivers. They've got 1 more lap remaining here. And I tell you what, we're after a classic, Billy. And well, Brands Hatch has delivered.
It really has. I mean, we've seen some great side-by-side action in the first 4 corners that we saw from these girls at the front. These young drivers showing and demonstrating how technically amazing they are and how much respect they have for each other, because there was definitely a lot of respect shown to present each other opportunities to overtake, but also defend it in the right manner. And yeah, the Visser, she's done a lot of preparation, a lot of hours. She's executed well in the first 2 races, but I'll tell you one thing that she won't have been prepared for, and driving around without a front end on the car in its entirety, yeah, she's definitely going to be struggling right now.
Yeah, could not agree with you more again. I keep agreeing with you. It's ridiculous. I love it. But we were talking about then Visser being in a world of her own right now within this esports series. But there are 3 drivers that we would say are right up there. And right now they're P1, they're P2, and they are P3. I was expecting Wood to be maybe ahead of Garcia in this trio, but it's not. So Marta Garcia, who took full advantage at the start of this race, is in P2 as it stands, but it's all about Sidorkova. The young Russian has come into this championship, taken it by storm, and well, taken Brands Hatch by storm as well. 1 more corner to go here, then it is round 3, race number 3, and it's going to be a double win here for Sidorkova. What a performance it was. She beat the queen of this esports series today in Visser, and well, it is double win duty here for Sidorkova. But Marta Garcia, huge result then moving forward in this series in P2. Wood then in P3, and I tell you what, Visser is going to hold on to P4. That is huge. I thought it might be P6. What an absolute show.
What a fantastic race to finish off our trip to Brands Hatch. Look, wishes do come true. You were wanting Sidorlova and Visser side by side. My goodness, you got a lot of side-by-side action tonight.
Incredible. It was going to take a bit of time, lots of different abilities within this series. Of course, it was new to some of these drivers as well before this series had kicked off. But wow, have we been rewarded. Race 3 of round 3. Wow, I won't forget that for a long, long time.
And in terms of Ira Sidorlova, we know that she's not a massive fan of sim racing. We know that she's not driven at Brands Hatch before. We've talked about how much local knowledge matters. So where is she getting this from, Billy?
I mean, I've had a lot of teammates over the years that some have been taken to sim racing really well, and they may not be particularly quick when you get to the real track, and then you get it vice versa, where people that are not very good in real life, they struggle a bit on the simulators. And for me, she seems to be a real natural in the world of sim racing. She's really taken to it like a duck to water. Her performances have been amazing. I mean, that race 3 there, she was side by side with Visser for 4 corners, fighting her end the whole way. Only 16 years old as well. She's going to go on to big things, I'm sure of it.
Well, she certainly is the star of the night with 2 wins. And what that means in terms of the championship is that she is creeping up on Bijtske Visser. But it has been a strong night for Visser, despite that off that she had. She still got decent points in race 3, and she was the fastest lap in all 3 races. So a 53 points Powell this evening. She started on 100. She finished off in 153. But Sidorlova 126. And then just look, Caitlin Wood has moved up to 3rd. But let's see how tight it is there from 3rd to 7th. Just 10 points between those drivers. A good move up the leaderboard as well for Jess Hawkins. We talked about that local knowledge. That means that she's now in 8th, but certainly that midfield is so tight as we head on to our next races. And if you thought Brands Hatch was good, if you thought Monza and the Circuit of the Americas is good, well, we still have plenty of decent racetracks to come. And next week we shall be heading to Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, also known as Interlagos, a wonderful racetrack to attend. I'm interested to see how it plays out in the world of sim racing, but that one thing is for sure, it is going to be another great battle to watch. So all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for your company tonight. Thank you very much to Luke and to Billy. Look, you're going to lose your voice if you keep getting this excited, but there's so much to be excited about. Thanks very much for your effort, guys, and we'll see you all next week.